circling above.
I don't know why that made
They
me
don't
laugh.
even know my name. Won't get
We're
the
here.
swipe for the train.
Okay.
Cloudy, ride to the
We're
airport.
here.
To get right for the plane.
Took a lot to get here today.
Wife, you handing it to shame. Yes, and I got no shame.
We talk about transparency on social media. Everybody's like, on authenticity. Everybody's, I'm trying to live my authentic self. I just want to be transparent. And that's when I say that this podcast is about human experience, because I think I'm too transparent. I think that there's very many times on here where I say things and I leave the booth and I say, fuck, I shouldn't have said that. And over the last 111 or 12 episodes, I've said plenty of things that I wish I didn't say. But, for most of my life, and we're going to get into this, there's a few things. It's going to be a heavy podcast, or more, it's going to be more serious. It's, I say a lot of things I shouldn't say, and I share a lot of myself, but I often say that we're doing a human thing here. This is a human thing. And I said, I was talking to someone a couple of days ago, and I talked about, like, I look at people and I look at people's flaws, not because I want to judge them for their flaws. It's because I want to connect with them with my flaws. Sometimes people don't have the same ones, which this may be asked backwards, but I see great in people. It's not like I only see negative in people. I think generally people are fucking awesome. With racism, with war and bigotry, I generally have a consensus that people are awesome. Some people say people suck. Sometimes they do. You've heard this on here a couple times. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you do too, bruh. So, give people grace. But when I meet people, I want to see where I can connect with them, because I pay so much attention to my flaws. And my friend, I told my friend, what's the greatest gift? The greatest gift I've gotten from recovery was self-awareness. I live so much of my life just affecting the world around me and being oblivious to the effect on the world. Nothing's worse than watching someone who's lacks self-awareness. I'm so embarrassed. But since I've been sober, I've made amends to so many people. I've even made amends to someone right before this podcast. And that's going to get into another point. But yeah, I want to be authentic and talk about anxiety today, because I canceled the podcast I have after this, and this is going to be a challenge to get through this, because I am not doing good when it comes to being anxious right now. And I'm going to tell my story with anxiety, and just share that. So I've always been a shame-based person. I don't know why, but like my first memories are shame. Ew, it was wet. My first memories are of shame, and actually I do know a little bit why. But so I remember even at 5 years old being so stressed out in social situations. And it made me a mean kid. I've been mean most of my life because I was so uncomfortable in my own skin. Now, 25 years later, because looking at when I was 5, there was a guy who groomed me as a little kid and would sit me on his lap and say fucking crazy things in my ear, and just really shaped my development. He really did. And that was traumatic. So now that makes sense. I don't even know if he molested me. I can't even remember because I was so young. And I've blocked out most of my childhood. I can't remember one. I can remember one childhood teacher's name, all the way from elementary school through junior high school. I just don't remember. I just can't. There's pieces of my life that I've blocked out, vacations and loving memories that I know I had, and my life was not crazy. My parents didn't beat the shit out of me. But anyway, I blocked huge portions of my life out. But my anxiety started there, just discomfort in my own skin, discomfort with the opposite sex, discomfort with the same sex, discomfort with different ethnicities, being a lot of times the only black person or one of the very few black people, discomfort with black people. I just always had that stress where I felt gross in my own skin. And that's gone on for the past 25 years. And in my teenage years, there was so much that came up with the anxiety and hormone shift of being 13 through 20. The anxiety and hormone shift, for people who have bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, the hormone shift brings those characteristics out, and those are typically the worst years for that patient or that human who's experiencing that, because you're still trying to diagnose this thing, and there's treatment. It's hard to, now at 30 I can manage it. Now at 30 I can manage it really well, because I've lived with it for 15 years. But so much anxiety and stress in my teenage years, then add a crippling drug addiction, and all the mistakes, and add all the mistakes that are made, all the fucked up shit that happened, all the trauma, all the terrible things that happened all throughout that crippling and tragic addiction. All of those things. And the only thing that kept me from feeling the emotional ramifications of those experiences was heroin. That finally I can quiet my brain down for a period of time. Finally, I had a minute of peace. A minute. If you ask me what I want in this world more than anything, I want peace. I don't, more than money, more than my family, I just want peace. And I want to find peace just with myself. I don't want to find peace because I'm making enough money. I don't want to find peace because, I'm willing to sacrifice everything in my life for peace. And, go live in ashram and just do that. I'm so down to just do that, because that's all I've ever wanted. But anyway, back to the anxiety. I've had this crippling anxiety as long as I can remember. And so now, as a person who's seasoned in the mental health experience, someone who's helped other people, spoken at other hospitals, really coached people through theirs, coaching people through the emotional pieces of life with my coaching program, sponsoring men to coach them through their issues, doing this podcast to advocate and to speak up about mental health. I'm seasoned in it. And to be honest, I've treated my mental health struggles for long enough where I am in remission 98% of the time. Well, it's 97%, 5% of the time in remission. And generally, I don't know if other people feel this way, but I wake up and I'm ready to fucking go. I love my life. Mondays happen. I'm ready to fucking rock. I don't have any, I wake up stoked to live, generally. But every couple months, I'll have a day or two where I'm just crippled by my anxiety. Crippled. So I was just talking to my engineer, and there's lots of side effects of anxiety. I pulled it up, but I fucking know all of them. There's irritability. That's one that I say that one first because that's one that people don't know. Irritability and discontentment, it's nothing can relieve it. So everything is annoying you. The word is hypervigilance. So it's irritability, rumination, and obsessive thoughts. So that's what I experienced. That's what I've been experiencing today. Two symptoms, and this is what I typically experience. I have things that are in my mind that happened 10 years ago that become fresh in my mind, and it's as if I feel them as if they happened yesterday. And I just can't stop thinking about them. And then there's something called catastrophizing, because there's also another word called histrionic. That's this idea, hysteria. When you hear hysteria, hysteria is not always yelling. It's sometimes the mental piece of catastrophizing, of like everything is the worst. And this goes on to, this is in personality disorders. This is in, bipolar disorder. borderline personality. There's a number of, hysteria comes in a number of different forms. But for me, it's catastrophizing, rumination, and then physiological anxiety. Very often my eyes will stop working, so there's neurological effects. So I can't focus my eyes, which this is dark, right? Like everybody's talking about like their anxiety and like biting their nails, and I'm over here, I can't see straight, like trying to drive. So many times I've woken up in the morning and tried to drive to train at the gym, and I can't even see straight. I'm just hoping I get to the gym on time, and can do my job, Part of the reason I stopped doing that job is because I just couldn't do it. But so I have physiological and neurological anxiety where my eyes are dashing back and forth. And then of course biting my nails. If you've seen on this podcast, my nails are to nubs. I just can't seem to grow them. It's actually OCD. It's deep. It's deep. It's self-harm and OCD. It's a lot of things because I ripped them off. Still to this day, even when I feel fine, that's just a compulsive behavior. It's like a tick. It keeps me relaxed to do that. But then also, so besides the neurological issues, dysfunction, I have the guttural anxiety. I actually did a ritual last year, and I've had so much work done in the more mystic and metaphysical space for this. And everybody always says, Eric, you have something in your gut. There's something that's just so tight. So I get that feeling, you know what it feels like? And this is so fucked up. It feels like, when you have to step on the brakes, you literally almost got into a car accident and your stomach drops. It feels like that when I'm feeling my anxiety so intense for the whole entire day. So today, I've been up since 3 with this crippling anxiety, and now I'm recording this podcast. Fuck, man. Heavy. But I feel better. In this moment, I feel better because I'm present. I'm right here. I'm on this microphone, cameras, computer here. Oh, some other side effects of anxiety, of course, biting nails, ticks, scratching, picking, itching, scratching your back. That's what my girl does. She scratches her back. Nail biting, cheek biting. So those are symptoms of anxiety, rapid speech when you're talking fast, and, having trouble, issues focusing. What else? What are some other ones? I think I pulled some up. What else? Oh, well, of course, there's heavy breathing and heart palpitations. People pass out all the time. That's what people think an anxiety attack is a lot of the time. They think like it feels like you're having a heart attack, which that is a form of anxiety, right? But anxiety is such a broad statement because there's so many different symptoms that you can feel. Obsessive compulsive aspects, physiological aspects, neurological aspects, physiological and in your circulatory system, heavy breathing, heart issues, heart palpitations. It's just so broad. And then there's just obsessive thinking, not being able to get a thought out of your mind. What's the word called? There's a term for it. Whatever. But so here's how I've treated my anxiety. So when I talk about recovery, a lot of my recovery is about addiction. But the thing is, when you get sober, you deal with the sober part in the first year, right? The first year, you learn how to stay sober for the first time. And then the rest of the years is practicing the shit you've learned in the first year. And just learning how to apply the principles you learned in the first year in all the years of your life. And then staying on top of it and being hyper vigilant in the less drastic sense on how to live your life as a sober person. So very little of my recovery is about not drinking and using. It's about being spiritually healthy. It's about fact finding. It's about consciousness, really. About consciousness, about personal development. It's about taking personal responsibility for yourself. That's what more of my recovery is about, But really, in the story, my story, it's get sober, recover from the mental health struggles, and then grow spiritually. That's what my story is. It's less emphasis on the get sober, more on the recovery of mental health stuff, because I struggled. Well, the reason I've talked about this, the reason I do what I do now is because I just simply could not function within the parameters of normalcy of life. I just simply couldn't do it. I really, really tried, and there was a lot of shame in that for a while. But a lot of people don't understand what people with my afflictions go through. People don't understand. So now I'm on a microphone explaining it to you. So that's the act of service, and that's what I'm able to do today. I'm able to do that. But I had to create my own way. So because I couldn't function within the parameters of other people's, dreams. But so some of the treatments that I've done over the years, because when I talk about personal development, your boy's about that life, son. When you talk about healing, I'm not talking about healing from a breakup, even though that's healing. I'm not talking about motherfucking bath bombs. I'm not talking about massages. Those things are good. And if you think of the depth of what a powerful massage does with just the transfer of energy and the human touch and the intimacy of that, powerful stuff. And it's self-care. It's healing. It can be healing, especially if you have trauma. To allow someone to touch you intimately with no contingencies. It's very powerful stuff. But for me, over the years, I got acupuncture sometimes twice a week to relieve my anxiety. I would go in there. This is so crazy. My resting heart rate was 110, 120. That's where my heart rate was from 3 a.m. until I went to bed. Resting heart rate all day. I used to wear my Apple Watch and look at it. I would show people, like, look at this shit. Your boy is riding this bitch till the wheels fall. I'm going to have a heart attack, 100%. There's no way I'm getting out of this without a heart attack because it just runs. It just goes. But I did acupuncture, and that worked. That brought, Eastern medicine as well as a metaphysical aspect, a spiritual aspect. If you're open to that. If you're not open to that, just the ancient Chinese medicine has benefits. You can get your PhD in Chinese medicine. It's valid. It's an expertise. I know a lot of great practitioners here in San Diego. They're all listed. A lot of them are listed on my website, bigmoodcoach.com, and you go to the resource section, and a lot of healers are on there. I've been in psychotherapy since I was 15, which that has taught me intimacy and communication. Probably one of my most important values. Also, the 12 steps have taught me about intimacy and communication, sharing intimate parts of yourself with other people. I do that now. I've done that so much that I can do it here. I'm almost, as a coach as well, I'm a professional talker. I'm a professional sharer. That's what I do, is share experience and work through experience with others. That's all due to psychotherapy for 15 years, which helps. I have a call with my therapist today where we're gonna just work through. We're just gonna work through it, and bring some. You know what a therapist does often? Affirmation. They affirm your experience. And that's why I say this on this podcast, that your experience is real. Even if your anxiety is just obsessive thoughts or just heavy breathing, your experience is fucking real. Women, if you had terrible sexual experiences with men like me or other men, like there's just the shitty things that you experience, your experience is fucking real. And that I've learned through therapy. Sometimes just someone looking at you in the eye or looking at you or hearing their voice just affirming you that you are real, giving you space to be that. So I've done therapy and, of course, anxiety meds. Anxiety meds are difficult. They're challenging because they're very anxiolytics. are sketchy. They're sketchy and they are dangerous. I know friends. I have lots of friends who have died from Xanax. Too many to like a crazy amount. Like more than 5, which is an absurd amount of young people to have died from one drug in particular, or a mixture of that drug. Probably, if I talk about a mixture of that drug, it's probably 15. That was played a part in somebody else's life, and also someone died in treatment when I was in rehab from Xanax withdrawal. Crazy. But yeah. So psychotherapy, great, teaches you communication. Someone can affirm your experience, because when it's in your, and also there's power in communicating your experience. There's power in just sharing what you're going through. Just sharing that allows you to feel free. My engineer, as I'm having this perpetual anxiety attack, I just tell my engineer a little bit of what's going on, and I feel just a little bit of relief. And in doing this podcast right now, I have absolute relief. I don't feel any symptoms at all in this very current moment. It's so unnecessary. I don't feel any symptoms in this moment. So it's just sharing that and talking through it and working through it. It is very powerful. So I encourage you, don't hide. Even though, like, what my body wants to do is curl into a ball, turn on a podcast, close my eyes, and hide under my covers. And then sleep it off. Who knows about them depression naps and anxiety naps? Gang, boy. Hey, let's go. If you know, you know. Shout out to the Grippy Socks, too. You know? So, yeah. It's there's a lot of ways to treat it, but hiding from it, you're not gonna hide from it. It doesn't work like that. So sharing it, talking through it. Anxiety meds are the last case. Exercise, I've done the best diet I've done for my mental health struggles was ketogenic, removing the insulin spikes. And just running off of fat. And actually, people don't know this, but your brain runs most effectively off fat. So I was just felt better. So I did that. I did keto for a year, just for mental health reasons, and it felt much better. I felt great. Was super skinny though, too skinny, probably 210. It's too skinny. But yeah. There's lots of ways to treat it. Diet, diet and exercise should be number 1. Get on your bike. Get on your bike for 20 minutes. Focus on your legs burning, Take a walk. It's big. Lift some weights. Throw some weights around, Or just do 3 exercises, 40 reps each exercise, and just move your body. And you may have relief just for that 10, 15 minutes. Move your body. And of course, serotonin, endorphins, we all know. So yeah, man. There's lots of ways to treat it. There's lots of experience. There's lots of ways to experience it. Lots of ways to experience anxiety. There's no monopoly on symptoms. Everybody's allowed to have their symptoms, but what I want to talk about next was a little bit of something that plays into my anxiety. Is this subconscious programming that I have set myself up with, and then also that society sets you up with. We talked about this last year, but that society sets you up with. And there's just a lot of programming. Someone said on a podcast that they think by the time you wake up, you're living somebody else's simulation. By the time you wake up, you're on your iPhone, you are in your text messages, in that reality, you're in your email of that reality, you're in your social media reality, whether it's Facebook or Instagram, because those are different realities, even though they're both social media. So you're in, as soon as you wake up, you are influenced and programmed as soon as you wake up. So it's, there's so much that I've been taught about myself by peers, by my parents, by Catholic school, by myself, things I just affirmed. And breaking those things, that was what my book was about last year, was just changing small behaviors in order to shift subconscious programming. Waking up and breathing, waking up and setting intention, waking up and doing intentions, setting an intention of how I'm going to, show up in the world, and setting intention of what I'm going to do as action in the world. Setting a movement intention. How am I going to move my body today? Am I going to go for a 20-minute walk? Setting an intention for spending time with someone. I'm going to have dinner with my children. I'm going to put my son to bed tonight and just focus on that. I'm going to talk to my wife or my husband or my partner for 20 minutes today. Ask them how they're doing. I'm going to just setting an intention to develop personal relationships. You know what I mean? And then taking an inventory at the end of the night, saying, how did I do? Could I have done better? Where could I have done better? What do you think stopped me from doing the best I could? And doing that over 90 days, just to shift. Which, if you listen to what I just said, that shit is bars, bro. That shit is bar. A lot of the shit I do is straight fire, and I just don't promote it well. It's not. That's my hardest struggle with everything I do, is I'm just not good at self promotion and marketing. I just don't sell, But yeah, that subconscious programming, so much that I've been taught about myself. That's why putting an affirmation on your wall and saying I'm enough. We talked about a couple weeks ago thought records that I went through, and core beliefs. Changing those core beliefs, things that you've been affirming in your mind for your entire life. Those core beliefs are something that I've generally gotten a hold of, and I'm able to recreate my own reality, my own experience. And I've been able to do that over a number of years. But sometimes when I'm stressed and I'm anxious, those core beliefs come up, and then I ruminate, and I'm ruminating. And now you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. You're the worst. You're the worst. I can't believe you did that. All of that shit, that fucking committee in your head that just wants to kill you. I told somebody that. I said, you don't know what it's like to live with a brain that is trying to kill you all the time. And my brain, fuck, man. People just don't get it. You don't get how it's a struggle, man. And I want people to get it. That's why I look at people's flaws first, because I'm like, I want to see you're human. I want to see your quirks and your psychotic. I want to see your stuff, your weird stuff, because I got this weird thing that's running the fucking show sometimes. Not so much anymore. But yeah, I'll have that rumination of you're the worst. And I'm really not the worst. I'm not the worst. There's people who have done really bad things and they're able to move on. And I've done everything I need to do in order to rehabilitate myself and to move into a better place and to be a better person. Everything that could be suggested, I've done it. So, it's just time to move on in that regard. I said that a couple of weeks in a podcast. But that leads into another thing, overcoming regrets. We all live a life where we were not the best versions of ourselves. And, moving on past that, what we allowed people to do to us, what we did to others, the impact we had on the world. A big thing that I do, and I encourage everyone to try to do, not even try, just fucking do it. Take responsibility for yourself. And it gets a little annoying, to be honest. It gets a little annoying because as soon as a situation goes awry or goes in a direction that I'm not that is not clean, I quickly make amends and quickly clean it up. That's just my instinct. My instinct is to say, hey, I wasn't the best version of myself. Let me take responsibility for that. Let me know what I could do to make that right and make this a better situation. That's what I do. That's just the way my mind works. At this point, it wasn't always that way. That's new. That's a shift in value system. But I encourage everybody, because I said this, sometimes you suck and you have shitty ass experiences with people. Sometimes you do. It's not everybody else's fault. It's not. It is not. So take responsibility for yourself. That's a great way to live with regrets, to look somebody in the eye and say, I did this thing. I did these things. I was rude to you. I was selfish and self-centered and self-seeking. For the women that I've had negative relationships with, I've had the opportunity to make amends to so many women and say, I used you for my validation. I objectified you for me. And I put my needs before your own well-being. To be able to look at people and tell them and affirm them. Because so many times, especially for women, we gaslight women. We gaslight them. We gaslight them. That's why the women's movement and the women's march and Me Too movement is so important. Because I was talking to a friend about it yesterday. Being shitty to women was business as usual. That's just what we were taught. That's just how it was, especially living the life that I was living. We're doing heroin, dog. We're shooting heroin. Of course we were shitty. People were dying. People were going to prison. Of course we were shitty. And being shitty just came along with that. When you're shooting heroin, values go out of the window. Sorry. But, there's so much, women are gaslit. And then there's so many ways that situations can be perceived. It could be like, but one thing, here's what I was saying yesterday. Women are sexualized, girls are sexualized by the time they're 8. I don't even want to think how young. I don't even want to think how young is the first time a girl is sexualized. I don't even want to think about it. Because I'm sure, you know what I mean? There's you look at all this sex trafficking stuff and this pedophilia stuff coming out. Women, how young are children sexualized by adults or people older than them? So women are potentially sexualized for their entire existence. And then by 11, 12, 13, until they get to a point where people are not interested in having sex with them. So people are throwing dicks at their face. And women are just karate chopping dicks. And then choosing some, they're like, this one's cool. Choosing the wrong one, sometimes you're like, that fucking sucked. And they feel like shit about it. And you know what? It may not only be their fault, because guys are, until now we know, but guys were willing to say and do whatever they could to have sex with that person. Business as usual. And people are still doing that. Lying right to a girl's face to have sex with them. And if you think about what that is, I have done this. This was business as usual. If you think about what that does to a person's psyche, makes them not trust themselves. Fuck, man. And we're bigger, so we're scarier. Fuck, it's so deep. It's so deep. So they're being sexualized their entire life, having to karate chop dicks. Some are cool dicks, some are bad dicks. Terrible situations. There's threats of violence. And there's all this baggage. And a lot of a woman's value becomes subconsciously based on how many people want to have sex with them. Fuck. So the same thing that can harm them so drastically, harm all of us so drastically, can also brings a sense of validation and not purpose, but acceptance. Oh, it's deep. It is deep, and I'm not speaking. I would like to say I'm a feminist. I'm not. I'm not. People like me can't be. People who have been this shitty to women, you can't be a feminist, bruh. You just have not. I just haven't displayed that behavior at all. But what I do realize, I take personal responsibility for how deep the impact that I was having has had. That seems redundant. Man, and so to be able, my original point, so to be able to look at women in the face or write an email or a text message and say, you are not I gaslit you. I gaslit you because what do men do? Call her crazy. This girl's tripping. This B is, and we say all that kind of shit, and we blame them. Really, you gaslit her. I gaslit her and lied to her. Or you know what I talk about with a lot of men, and this is some deep high level, personal development. Using honesty to manipulate. Using honesty to manipulate and get what you want. How many men, myself included, have told a girl, a woman, the truth, knowing or hoping that she wouldn't care about that truth, and having her want to change your mind? You now then have a side piece who's trying to convince you to be in this relationship with you, or to, she's in this, or you're saying, oh, I don't want an actual girlfriend. And now she is like, that's cool, that's fine with me. But subsequently, at the end of that, she ends up getting hurt. And you said, I told her I wasn't trying to be in a relationship. So you used honesty to absolve you of the impact you had on people in your life. That shit is deep, dog. Again, gaslighting women. Who's done this? I've done this. How do you think I know all the stuff that I'm talking about? This is how I know, because I'm talking about me. But I'm talking about other men too, because this is business as usual. But that's changing. I'm so happy. I'm not going to live the majority of my life thinking that way. So happy. Because you see men who are 50 years old now who have done 50 years of this shitty behavior to women, and it comes out, and now they're the biggest piece of shit. For me, most of the fucked up shit I did, I was fully addicted to heroin. Doesn't absolve me, but like at least I can put that in my mind and say, that's not who I am as a person. That's not who I am, and I'm changing my value system. Doesn't absolve me at all. I still have hella guilt, so I'm struggling. I'm struggling. But yeah, if you think on a deeper level of what people are experiencing and the affirmation, yes, your experience is real. Your anxiety is real. Your depression is real. Hey, women, your experience is real. Hey, black men and women, your experience is real. But also, hey, conservative person, your experience is real. Can't leave them out. Can't say you want to affirm everybody's experience and not affirm the experience of people who don't think like you. That's challenging to say out loud. That's challenging. Lastly, we'll finish with this. The note I wrote was 100 no's. A friend of mine is starting a project, and he needs guests or people to help him with this project. So he has to ask a lot of people. And a lot of these people, he's a newer and up-and-coming person, and he's needs people who are a little bit more established to invest in him and to be creative with him and to collaborate with him. That's challenging. It's challenging. And I just want to tell people, you're going to hear a lot of no's in life. The older I get, the more I realize that in the space that I'm in, there's more no's than yeses. In sales, do you know, in sales, what is the conversion rate in sales? Anybody know? 20% conversion in sales. So every 100, 20 people may say yes. 20% is the high. It's really probably 10%, even less probably. Depends on how great of a salesperson you are. I suck. I'm terrible. So you're going to get more no's as you grow within your life than yeses. But Dave Chappelle talked about a brittle spirit. If one no or 1,000 no's stops you from your dream, that dream wasn't big enough. That dream wasn't big enough. No one is going to tell me no and make me stop. No one. No one's going to tell me no and make me stop chasing my dreams. No one's going to tell me I can't grow as a human. No one's going to tell me I can't be better than yesterday. No one's going to tell me that I don't, I shouldn't believe in myself. No one's going to tell me that. No one's going to tell me that. And if you're thinking of a business, if you're thinking about going on your own, if you're thinking about a side hustle, if a few no's make you quit and discourage you, that ain't your purpose. That ain't your dream. That ain't your dream. Think about what would you do? So what would you do if you didn't have to do it for money? What would you do for free? What would you do for free? What keeps you excited at night? This podcast keeps me excited. I come in here, I'm ready to go. I feel zero anxiety right now. Zero. I'm in a flow. It's a flow state. It's a flow state. You're just in it. You're talking to yourself. You're jamming. You're jamming. And who cares? Who cares if anybody likes it? This is what I love to do. I can hear 1,000 no's. And then once you start popping off, then everybody won't say yes. Because that's what we're experiencing right now. A lot of people say yes now. A lot of people ask to be on. It's like, nah, fam, you're not interesting. They don't tell you that. But not everybody's interesting. You could have a lot of credibility and not be that interesting. I've had some people on here so far who's like, on paper, this person should be the best podcast ever. And just not that interesting. But anyway, 1,000 no's, 100 no's. If no is going to stop you from your dreams, if no one's going to stop you from your dreams, man, that dream's not big enough. Dream's not big enough. Dave Chappelle talked about a brittle spirit. This is a heavy podcast. It's a heavy one. But, everybody talks about authenticity. Everybody talks about authenticity. Right? I want to be my authentic self. I want to be transparent. Here we go. Here it is. This is it. This is a transparent podcast. And I will leave this and drive home and think of all the things I should not have said. And that's how you know you're being transparent. Okay? But we're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up there. Eric_Big Mood Coach on Instagram. BigMoodCoach.com. That's the website. Big Mood TV. If you're listening, you can watch this podcast on Big Mood TV. Like, share, subscribe. iTunes, Spotify, every platform. Share it with people. Share it with people if you liked it. We're out of here. Peace.
Vultures circling above, they all in a piece, but they don't even know my name. Won't get even the swipe for the train. Cloudy, ride to the airport, gotta get right for the plane. Custom, smell like kush. Wifey hand in the dish. Yes, and I got no shame. Never. Some line to shine. With a broke, you got no game. Waking up next to a scat. Can't go home to a dame. Nah, tell themselves they're the same. Really though, who can they blame? I don't blame them either. They just wanna play the game and they're eager still. I don't wanna know you. I'm busy. You don't even know thyself. Grizzy, out for the dough.